I don't want to bury the lead. The technique is using or flipping weird samples, whether that be sampling an unexpected musical source, sampling a weird or janky instrument, or using Foley as, say, drums or percussion. And stick with me, and I want to show you why I think this is incredibly useful and why you should try it. I'm coming at this from the content creator angle, where I have done like kind of song production challenges for content, and that's how I discovered just how fun and powerful this can be, and I think everyone should try it. But I also want to note right off the bat that pro producers use this technique a lot more than you might think, from bass music to hip-hop. And just to make sure that this title wasn't clickbait, I polled my audience, and at least 2/3 of you don't do this super often. So with that being said, let's get into why this is not only super fun, but I think can actually improve one's production skills. It definitely did for me. Starting with sampling either weird instruments or just things that aren't instruments at all. The first reason I love this is because it can actually basically trick you into learning music production skills, both things like sound design fundamentals and effects and all that kind of stuff, and can give you more tools for creative problem solving. Because if you are me a few years ago, once you've put auto-tune on an automaton, you kind of stop caring what's correct and just start caring about what can make something sound at least moderately listenable. Flashing lights warning in 3, 2, 1. Or there's the time I recorded a super cheap stylophone and stylophone drum and shaped those sounds into something that is hopefully a bit more full and polished. By the way, that video was actually kind of a stealth way to try to teach some kind of sound design fundamentals, and I'll link a full playlist at the end of this one with just a bunch of stuff that'll hopefully give you some ideas for getting started with doing this yourself. But this is why I like this, because I was able to kind of incorporate a bunch of foundational sound design techniques into like prettying up these relatively janky sounds. And when I was first getting into like doing little song challenges like, oh, making songs from household items, I noticed that I was actually becoming a better producer and getting better at using the tools at my disposal to make something sound good, no matter how potentially janky the source. And this segues nicely into using straight up non-instruments as instruments, especially percussion. For this, I own a Zoom H1, $100, completely portable, decent quality onboard XY mics, and I have used this so much to record the sound in my environment, whether that be like field recordings or sound effects. And this technique can be cheap to free if you have a smartphone. Like recording stuff on your smartphone and then subtly layering it into stuff can absolutely be enough. You don't actually need fancy equipment to at least tinker with this idea. Plus, you could also go to free sound effect libraries, but I really do like recording sounds myself. It gives an automatic uniqueness because like no one else has those sounds, and all of us have different objects in our immediate environments, and so we're probably going to get fairly different sounds. For a more concrete but kind of unusual example, I found these prop keys in a shop and just recorded them on my phone. There's a bunch of background noise, but that kind of disappears in the context of a mix. I do want to note, this was for a video where I was making a full song just on a smartphone app, but hopefully you at least see where I'm headed with this. As you can probably hear, that gives the beat this interesting texture, and you don't have to be as blatant as I was with that example. However, let's get even more blatant, where I took just a bunch of sounds of stuff just around my desk, like this water bottle and a coin and crumpling up paper, and then I took a bunch of like little snippets of these, made them into one-shots, and made a beat that is, okay, probably a bit much. I probably took this a bit too far, but hopefully this gives you like some ideas at least. Almost all of that percussion is Foley. Things like this coin being dropped and me snapping and then panning it around a bunch, recorded myself, and then I made a kick on the model cycles and a hi-hat, I think on the MPC itself. Or here's a less over-the-top example of some isolated trap drums with a bit of Foley sprinkled in there as ear candy. Now, I think doing this just to get like interesting or unique or texture-laden sounds is enough of a reason to give it a go by itself. And that's the reason that everyone from beginners to pros can get use out of this. However, I think there's another kind of hidden reason why this is so effective, because there's a bit of a tension that I've noticed, at least for myself, when it comes to creative work. We're musicians and we make music because of the joy of music creation, or at least somewhat, I think. And it's easy to like find this dichotomy between like having fun and playing music and just getting lost and having a good time with music and getting in the flow. There's a dichotomy between that and like trying to be productive and have a finished product and be efficient with our limited time and have something to show for the kind of grinding that we're doing, because music production is such a weird mix of creative and technical, and creative expression is such a weird mix of like personal and emotion driven, and also potentially trying to put something out for an audience. What I really like about forcing yourself to work with weird or even completely silly sounds is that it gives you a nice defined goal that you're working towards. The goal is to have a at least moderately listenable piece of music, but in order to get there, you have to experiment. You have to play around with something, and the premise might even be inherently silly. And so you have an end goal you're trying to get to, but a bunch of silliness to get there. It kind of turns music production into a game where you take it seriously, except you know you're just doing it for the fun of it. And then maybe you get something releasable at the end of it, maybe you don't. Remixing a door hinge or a fart or something like might get you thinking on your feet and help you improve your skills without feeling like you're slogging through difficult, like grinding out of knowledge or whatever. And plus it just makes you more like aware of your surroundings, more aware of sounds around you, and more appreciative of those sounds. Like for me, I've done mini hikes to record little creaks with my Zoom H1. I've rushed to grab my recorder so I could record sizzling oil as I was pan frying at some pot stickers so I could layer it with a snare. Or I've been playing video games and then eventually found myself really wanting to sample its soundtrack, like I did with Fallout 4.
Really want this to be the last mug you see?
That's the final thing I want to encourage you to try, by the way, sampling the media you consume, whether that's YouTube videos, movies and television, or video games. Now, for a lot of that stuff, you're probably just absolutely never going to be able to clear those samples for commercial use, but that's almost besides the point, because sampling the stuff that you hear around you is the point. If you can intake media and then eventually harness that as inspiration to turn it into some banger music, I think that is absolutely its own reward, which is why I tend to do it quite a bit. If you'd like to see a whole bunch of this and hopefully get some ideas for ways to try this yourself, you can check out this big old playlist over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit.